Things are heating up as we are just days away from the start of the 2025-2026 NBA season. We have multiple reports surrounding this Heat organization and really the expectations going into this new NBA season. I'm here to break down all of those reports and how some of the most notable names covering the game of basketball have large expectations for this Heat team going in to this new regular season. We'll break down all of those reports on this episode of Heat Digest, but first, please do remember to stay up to date with everything Miami Heat. Scroll down, click that subscribe button, as nearly 90% of you guys watching this video currently are not subscribed. We do appreciate all the love and support, so thank you guys tremendously for everything. But now let's get to it and break down the major expectations for this Miami Heat organization. Now, when the books originally opened, and what do I mean by that? I mean the sports books originally opened with wins and losses and the total wins, if you will, going into this new season for the NBA. We came on this channel and highlighted how disrespectful the line was for Miami. And it wasn't because it was 30 or something, like it wasn't disgustingly low, but it was still at 36.5. Now it has gone up since that video, obviously. It is now at 37.5. It hasn't gone up much. And the number is plus money on certain books. For the state of Florida specifically with Hard Rock Sportsbook, it is minus 135. So you bet $135, you make $100 back. Not really the point. The idea is the Heat are still being overlooked drastically by the sports books, and I'm not quite sure why. The sports books always have a leg up. They always know something one step ahead of the entirety of the public, and it feels like everybody, even the players, and that doesn't make any sense. But it's true. They are very, very accurate in the lines they make 90%, if not more, percent of the time. Last season, Miami 37-45 ended 8 games negative on the regular season. Obviously, that got them the 9th spot or the 10th spot in the Eastern Conference, made it via the play-in game, not what you're aiming for. But again, they were able to get in. And in the division, they ranked second because of tiebreakers against the Atlanta Hawks. But in the sense of wins and losses and total record, they were third in the Southeastern Division, which is not going to work because Orlando didn't get any worse. They've only gotten better, and Atlanta in the same category. They haven't gotten substantially worse compared to last season, where they exceeded a bunch of expectations. So how does Miami fit into this? How is Miami supposed to surpass all of these expectations? Well, if the expectations to win 37.5 games, let's call it 38, because you can't win half a basketball game you can't win half of any professional sporting event. 38 wins should be the floor for the Miami Heat this season. And I'm not saying that as a biased fan or someone who supports and covers this Heat organization, but let's look around the league. The Eastern Conference is in no way dominant in comparison to the Conference of the West. But also, in this division, in the Southeast Division, you have teams like the Magic, obviously the Atlanta Hawks, like we already addressed, but then the Charlotte Hornets and the Washington Wizards. Now, the Miami Heat are clearly, at minimum, the second best team in this division. Yes, I know you can make the argument for Atlanta, but the only team right now that is actually scaring me on the outer side without seeing these teams play competitive games because the regular season hasn't started yet is Orlando, because Paulo is a little LeBron, and it just has not happened on the national stage yet. So let's get into some of these major reports and some of the top insiders that give us an idea that Miami is in. And Miami, you should be in on Miami because not only the way they put together, but the coaching staff, the organization as a whole, and just the culture that is established in Miami that should propel them to multiple wins and obviously a winning record this up and coming season, and possibly even a playoff berth, if not the top of the Eastern Conference. So let's start with this one from Heat Culture on Twitter, citing Zach Lowe on his podcast as he was sitting with Bill Simmons, who wasn't too fond of this take by Zach Lowe, but we have to acknowledge it because, honestly, I'm in with this comment. I think he's under-delivering it just a bit. I think he's very hesitant to actually make this comment and say that he's in on Miami because no one really knows what you're going to see with the young talent they have assembled on this roster. So it's a bit of a leap, and I understand that, but because of what we've watched all offseason long and what we watched last season and knowing the collection of talent they have put together, it's hard for me to not believe Miami wins 40, 45, 48, even 50 games this up-and-coming regular season. So the quote from Zach Lowe: Quote, I think Jaquez bounces back. I like Jovic. I like Ware. I'm going over on the Heat. It's my blind faith pick. They get points. They're bringing back the Miami Vice jerseys. That's like 5 wins. I'm over. And that's the other quote from Zach Lowe discussing the total wins and losses for this Miami Heat team going into this up and coming 2025-2026 NBA season. Now, I agree with this entirely. I wouldn't say this would be a blind faith pick for Miami. In my case, obviously, I'm a bit biased, but seriously, looking at what we've watched from this Heat team and the collection of talent they have with the coaching and Spo that they are going to have at the helm of things, even if Bam looks like he did last year and doesn't take a drastic step forward, this Heat team is going to be very well positioned. Andrew Wiggins, Norman Powell, Tyler Hero's coming back after the first month. Jaquez, Jovic, Ware. The list of depth is really outrageous, and all of it is very, very young. And the inexperience can be a problem. I understand that. But some of these guys like Jaquez and Jovic have been in the league for 2, 3, now even going into their 4th season, where obviously sophomore as well as Pella Larson and others. But still, the collection of talent with the veteran leadership with Wiggins and Powell and now Hero and Adebayo, this should be a great collection of talent as well as experience and a lack of experience that could gel nicely and work very, very well for this Miami Heat team. Now, Zach Lowe mentioned the Miami Vice jerseys. We're going to get to that in just a second, just to round things out. To quickly go to Heat diehards on Twitter, Tim Bontemps goes on to break down how Miami could end up possibly being a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference with this quote. I think the Heat are better this year than they were last year. Hero's going to be out for a little with the foot injury, but I would bet on them going to be better. And if they are right, I think they've got a chance to be in the mix to finish in the top 4 in the East, just like I think Detroit does. Now, Tim is a bit different from everyone else, throwing out Detroit and Miami and possibly finishing in the top 4, if not 5 of the Eastern Conference by the time the regular season ends, could be considered a hot take right now because it's only October 16th, and both those teams are not highly regarded, especially in the East. But back to the comments we made earlier, the Eastern Conference is not a powerhouse. Yes, there are good teams. There are not a lot of great teams. Boston is depleted. Jason Tatum won't be active until at least the All-Star break, and that is even a rush. Teams like Orlando, obviously Atlanta, these teams are not proven up to this point. Charlotte and Washington are not great. Detroit is scrappy on the same level as Orlando, in my opinion. Are they going to be tough wins if Miami's in these games? Absolutely. They're built well, they play the right way, and they're very, very young. So it's going to be a tough matchup for any of those situations. But Miami, with the collection of talent, not only offensively, but then the abilities defensively, are going to have any real chance like anyone else in the Eastern Conference. Now, the final thing we are going to cite before we get back to the Miami Vice comments made by Zach Lowe. ESPN put out an article going through every single team in the association and highlighting their projected wins as well as the ESPN bet win and loss over and under. Now, the wins or the over under on wins and losses for Miami is 38.5 on ESPN bet, but the projected wins from ESPN is 40.5. Very interesting how that works. Now, it goes on to break down how obviously Spo is still there, and they went out and added Norman Powell, and Tyler Hero still didn't be there. It's a very small 2 sentences that breaking down information we already know. They're going to be capable of going out there and getting the job done if they really just are able to blend together as a team and play under Spo. They're not going to have to go out there and be world beaters. They just have to play in the equation, have to be and do their part, and things will work out in a team effort. If Miami can do that, I think they surpass all of these anticipated wins and losses over and unders in 37, 38.5. I think they're scratching 40 total wins, if not more, and I think it should be at least a 500 season, if not better, for this Miami Heat team for this up-and-coming season. Now, back to the Zach Lowe comments to round out this video and close things out. He says the Heat are allegedly going back to the Miami Vice jerseys. That adds 5 wins. Well, Tyler Hero on Instagram today. If you don't follow him, go do it because he loves to post his stuff. Now, gives you a little bit of insider information because we wouldn't know this if he didn't have Instagram and he wasn't posting this stuff. He does New Era Shoot, posted on his Instagram story. If you click through it, you see this photo as well as a collection of others where they are going through brand apparel photo shoots and photos of Hero posing with a basketball with new apparel, specifically a hat. It looks to be a black hat with a blue brim and blue writing and a pink little, I don't even know what you'd call that on a hat, but the little top piece here that connects the top, okay? That's pink. What colorway is that? The Miami Vice jerseys. Could you expect and bet on the Miami Vice jerseys returning this year? Absolutely. I think this was a hard launch for the Miami Heat. Tyler Hero knew exactly what he was doing. He knew the Heat fan base, Heat Nation, loves these jerseys. They love when Miami is wearing these jerseys or the throwback jerseys for the Miami Heat organization. They're coming back, and I'm with Zach Lowe. It adds 5, maybe if not even more wins, depending on how many times they wear them this season. Let me know down below your overall expectations for total wins for this Miami Heat team, and I will see you guys on the next episode of Heat Digest.